sneaky perverts in the woods. Wasn't talking about Ali. Sneaky perv. That's going in it. Right, well, I can't believe I'm doing this again. Literally the following weekend. Last minute, another BCC run has been called. You guessed it. Talybont again. And I absolutely hate this. Oh. But I'm desperate to fly. And I want to be part of this team and hopefully redeem myself from last weekend. No promises. Oh. Sky Surfers team already. I'm getting there. So no GoPro today, so there's going to be a flight track and a voiceover. We'll put everyone's, maybe literally everyone's flight track on. We'll concentrate on our team. Fingers crossed. Even if I bum out, we'll look at someone who has a flight track that does better than me. Maybe talk about the decisions. See how it goes. As I say, there's not going to be much in-flight stuff, if any at all. So I hope you'll just enjoy the day. Well, thank you to Matt Tandy for permission to use this track log that he's put together using Sports Track Live. He's gathered all the track logs of the day, put them into the one file, and it's come up with this absolutely beautiful animation of how it all transpired. You can see that I've taken off quite early, determined to not make the same mistakes I did the week before and miss out on any of the cycles going through. It didn't take long to find a good cycle. Most of us were in it, and then suddenly people dropped out at the bottom. I could have taken this one and carried on going, but we actually had a team plan to try and stick together, get that first thermal out, and then head towards Hay Bluff. Having noticed no one else had actually managed to take that thermal with me up, I pushed forward again to go and regroup. And I saw Martin to my left with another small gaggle scratching their way out, so I decided to join in the thermal above them, being entertained by Martin's wing having two little quick collapses, which is always great to then join that rowdy thermal. It wasn't too bad, and I managed to get away from the hill after this. There was no point at that height to start heading back towards the launch. All I would have done is bombed out on top of the hill. Yeah, I could have retaken off and had another go, but I was up in the air and determined just to take it nice and early and hopefully use all the thermals that were there rather than waiting for them all to disappear and the cycles to diminish. You can see I've pulled away from the gaggle now, going downwind, and that's when I start thinking to myself that I need to turn to the right and find my way some more height towards Hay Bluff. I start hanging around trying to find thermals just to top up my height, and fingers crossed wait around for others to come off the launch and join us on this planned trip. You can just see Ali is actually coming towards me. Getting all excited here, thinking that the actual plan may well go ahead. So as he's coming towards us, I'll leave relatively calm thermal, hoping to come up behind me. I'm just sinking out. I look back and see that he's in the thermal, but I'm too far away to be able to go into that thermal with him. So I'm now desperately looking for a thermal of my own to top up. All my concentration is on possible landing fields, possible sources and triggers. And this little corner here was actually the peak of a hill, and there was a lot of zeros. So I ended up bumbling around it for a while, hoping that it would release. It didn't release. So I started thinking again about maybe getting an extra K glide before I landed, and on my way downwind to do it, I saw what looked like a chicken farm, and bam! In virtually zero wind down there, this thing was kicking off an absolute beaut. However, it was a bit rough, and it wasn't easy to centre on it, but I just dug in and refused to leave this bit of lift. I knew that this could actually save me from that low point in the flight. So I took this all the way up to the top, and again decided to find another thermal afterwards, waiting around for others to join us. As I got to the top of this thermal, I couldn't see anyone. Maybe a couple of dots in the distance, but there was no way of identifying who was on my team, if anyone was coming in my direction. So at that point, I started thinking about what my plan was going to be. And I'll keep using the term downwind. The wind was extremely light, and by the time I'd landed, there was no wind down at ground height. So I was just trying to glide around, thinking to myself, I didn't want to go too far. I didn't want to have to rely on asking my missus to pick me up in the van through all these small lanes that you can find in Wales. So I started thinking about seeing if I could actually do a triangle. However, I found some really strong sink and found myself at a very low point again. So I just looked for the bare dirt around there, found that field, and bam, again, found another thermal. Now I actually found this one indicated by a buzzard below me, and it was beautiful. But as I got up, I started falling in and out, and then a kite came over the top of me, showed me where this core was, and then straight in it and took it even higher. Before I left this, as you can see, I'm now panning around, you can see Talybont reservoir in the distance. From here, in this thermal, I could see my van parked on the dam. That was where my missus was. So, just played the day as it was, decided to change my plan because I couldn't find any teammates, and try ourselves a little triangle and see if I could fly back to the van to reduce any chance of my missus having to do the driving. But this also worked out twofold. When I got back to the van, it was very easy to get signal, indicate to everyone else that I was down safe, find out where they were, and do a retrieval. And it kept our team moving throughout the day without issue. Now this is the interesting part for me. I only used maximum half bar. I'm still flying the Volt 4, absolutely loving the 2-liner fill. Not sure the performance means that it's 10% better than a 3-liner C. I personally think that rule and that scoring should be revisited, but that's just me. Anyway, I only use half bar, on a little bit more when you get a bit of sink, slightly off, and try and keep the sink to about 1 down, 2 down. Got me a really good glide, but sadly 2 fields away from where the van was. That was a very short walk, and I was really happy with that flight. Having a quick look at the teammates and how they done. This is Ali. He done some really good thermaling with people. He was making sure that he was keeping an eye out, watching what everyone else was doing, joining them if he couldn't find his own thermal. But importantly, he didn't give up. He tried all the options around the ridge that we started from, and it paid off as he got up and out, over the back of the hill, no hesitations. And by all intents and purposes, he'd done very well. However, as with anything, it can be a hit or miss day. He's managed to get his second thermal, but then sometimes it's just that third one that escapes you. Clearly here it looks like he is looking for a ground trigger, maybe a small village, tree line. Sadly it didn't pay off. Here's John Stockley's flight. You can see already that he's on the hill, and he didn't take off until later. You can see all the other tracks are in there, everyone else has left the hill. This is the mistake I made the week before, is that I end up taking my time too long, all the cycles are gone. However, this wasn't John's fault. He actually managed to do a flight before, he bombed out and gone through all the effort to get back up and have another go. Thankfully it did pay off, and he scored a flight of 5.01 kilometers. Happy days. Here's Martin Ayers' flight. So we were together in the first thermal. As I said, I followed him into the second thermal as I went over the back, and he took a slightly different route. Coming out of his last thermal here, he's going downwind, heading towards Brecon. You'd have thought that Brecon would kick off something, so he was right to meander around there and try and find that one thing that was actually kicking off. Now he's doing the classic of never leaving the lift, probably arguing around here for a while with zeros until he finds one that pops up. Nice steady climb all the way, and I believe this was the last thermal he'd got. At that point you're going to start looking for the next thermal. Another little argument with something not happening, probably zeros, and then try for the last little field, and that didn't work either. And here's a worthy mention of Graham Richards' flight of the day. Clearly some good teamwork between him and Dennis, sticking together, finding thermals, finding those cores really well, following each other downwind. Even at this point, a bit of distance between them, but they get back together, do a nice little dance, no doubt look at each other, whooping and hollering. Brilliant flight, and just extends it as far as they can do downwind. So hopefully everyone else has done a really good flight. Hopefully you've enjoyed watching the flight tracks of everyone and all their individual choices and decision making. That is that, guys. Until next time, see you in the sky.